All right, here we go, kids. I'm just an amateur DIY guy, likes to wrench around on my cars a little bit. I got 4 cars I have to maintain for the family, so I like to tinker a little bit. So, at any rate, this is not a real professional video. Apologize if you're expecting more, but it at least will give you a lead as to how to change the battery on your A8, the D5 editions or model generation, I guess you'd call it. Mine happens to be a 2019 with about 49 or 50,000 miles on it. The battery had not died, but what I noticed is I was pushing the starter button, and when I would push the starter button, it would take a second or two to engage before it would actually kick the engine on. And since the car, this is January 26, so got 7 years out of the battery. Figure probably pushing it a little bit. This is one of the first models delivered here in the States. I should not disclaim it was like the first one off the boat. I'm just saying it was ordered in 2018 as a 2019 model and came in. So the battery's about 7 years old. So at any rate, having said that, I went on YouTube looking for a video on how to change the battery, the 12-volt battery on the car, and really didn't find anything very good or anything at all. So I decided to throw this out there. I've done a couple other amateurish videos on some of my other cars. Just hoping that it helps the community. I've learned a lot from other people's videos. I always take a look at 2 or 3 videos to try to learn as much as I can. Some people invariably miss a piece or 2, and I learn something from everybody's video. So hopefully this helps you guys out. But really, there's a lot of information out there that suggests it's only to be done by professionals, the garage mechanics only, blah blah blah. And look, I really am not a master mechanic by any stretch, but I'm not afraid to jump into things. And I figure worst things that happens, I have to call a tow truck to come get it and fix it. But it didn't happen here. It was successful. It was actually pretty easy. It's just probably a little time consuming because of the location of the battery. As you can see here from this picture, it's in the trunk, the passenger side rear. Normally there's a panel that sits here, of course, covering it up. This is mine is a 3-liter V6 engine, just to share that with you as well. The 48-volt battery is underneath the spare tire. I removed the floor there. I also removed the jack to get access and be able to take this panel off. That's the easiest way to do it. It's really straightforward. Here's what you need to do. You remove the negative side of the terminals first. Always be sure to do that at any time you're changing a battery. It's because the car, the frame, if you touch any of those wires to the frame while you got the negative terminal hooked up, you're going to get a severe spark and have a little excitement that you don't need and possibly damage some of your electronics. So just be careful not to do that. Take off the negative terminal first. There's a plate down here in the bottom. There's 2 bolts. These are 13 millimeter. They require 13 millimeter sockets. Once you loosen that, this little plate along the bottom here comes out. That allows you to slide the battery out. This is the new battery. This is the vent hose that just plugs into the side and drops in here to drain any gases out the back and back side of the vehicle. The positive side is here. Once you take this bar off, you can slide this piece out. Take the vent hose off. This is some emergency thing, probably for the firefighters or something. Need to pull this off. I'm not sure. I'm not messing with it. The positive side is underneath. There's a little protective cover here. You just, once you pull this out, you'll see you just flip this plastic cover off here. You don't need to open this whole cover up. You certainly can if you want to mess around with that, but you don't need to. You don't need to undo any of these wires. I recommend disconnecting this little connector. It's part of the battery management system on the negative side before you remove the bolts and the terminal connectors from the battery. So just slide this gray pin back this way, and then you basically just push it on a little bit and wiggle this piece out. Takes 10 millimeter nut right here, and there's another 10 millimeter nut on this side. So once you remove this, slide it out. It's easy to remove those nuts. Again, negative side first, just lift that up. I recommend wrapping that in a towel or a glove or something, just so it doesn't spark or get any charge off the battery or what have you while you've got the positive set up. You shouldn't have any problem, but just do that as a precaution. You could see all the little wires and cables under here. I mean, this car's got so much electronics, it's nuts. But I'm sure already know that. Once you pop the old battery out, which is this one right here, it's the old Varda. It's a 68 amp. The battery that I replaced it with, I went up to Costco and got the interstate, I guess it's called, battery. It's a size H6 here in the States. I don't know if that's different in Europe, but it's an H6 battery. You can kind of see it's says it's a 36-month warranty. It was $179 at Costco. The last battery I bought at Costco is in one of my other cars. I still have 6 years on that, and that was only a 36-month battery too. So I charge my batteries up twice a year. I just put a charger on them to top them off, and I've been really fortunate and had good luck with them that way. But you guys do what you want. You charge it just by going up to the engine compartment with your positive and negative in the engine compartment. You can put a regular battery maintainer or charger on there, and it will direct the charge back here to the battery. You don't have to take this whole cover off to do that. Just a couple of things I would tell you is that, and I learned this from watching somebody else's video on an Audi, I think it was on an A6, but one of the things to do before you disconnect that battery, just because these windows automatically drop, lower the windows, all of them, at least the front driver's side, by an inch or so, and then shut the ignition off. That way, if you have to jump in or out of the car, wait a second, is that going to make it? No, never mind, it doesn't matter on this one. It doesn't have, it's not going to have any problem. You don't have to drop the window. That was just, must have been me on the A6. But here's what I did run into. This is the panel that came out of there, and it just goes, slides in there, something like this. And what happens is you've got to, here's this little piece slides, right up around this piece. You can slide it up in there, but really the only place that it's got a hard connection into the car is with those two clips right there, which go into these holes, basically right here, and right there. So when you're trying to remove that side panel, it just tucks underneath this rubber a little bit, so you kind of have to get underneath that rubber with the plastic pry bar to pull it out. And I just used something like this. Voila, just dig under it a little bit. But what happened is, I didn't know where these two plastic pieces were on there. As you can see, there's really nothing else where you've got a connector. These little pieces, they kind of, I don't know, they're kind of cheap in my opinion. They just don't, I've pulled out a few of these in other parts of the car, and they bend and they pop out, and they're kind of a pain. But anyway, you might have one or two that get stuck. You got to slide them back into here. But when I pulled this off, I didn't know exactly where to pry, and this whole piece came off and was left in the car when I pulled this panel off. So I had to re-glue it. I just used this. I use this stuff all the time on plastic. It works great. Plastic JB Weld plastic bonder, and it really, it's super good stuff. And then the other piece that you have to be careful on when you're removing it, in particular, is this kick plate that protects, you know, the trunk. Goes over the lip right here, which is, you know, voila, like that. Covers up the little trunk pull down hook there. And this is important to understand too. It's got a couple pieces where you have to get the pry bar. Again, you've got to reach underneath, you know, kind of get under the lip of this plastic with your pry bar. Slide along here, but you've got four connecting points that are there, and there. So you got four, and they're kind of out towards the ends. Here and here, and there, boom, boom. So you've got to, you know, pry that up and be careful, because you've got this. You got a light right there, trunk light, and there's a little connector right here. Just so you can get an idea of where that is. It's right here. That goes into the light piece. Just, you know, once you get this loose, lift it up a couple of inches, and then what you do is push on this connector. You just have to push down on it, push in on that piece, and then slide it back. And you don't want to tear that. It's got some delicate little wires on it. Everything on here is delicate. This car is crazy. And then you can remove the sill plate. I'm just going to leave it there because I'm getting ready to reinstall everything. And then your floor piece goes back on to cover the spare tire. But the only other piece of advice I have for you is, again, mine, it was simple. Once I finished installing the new battery, bolted it down, jumped in the driver's seat, hit the start button. It had about a 30-second delay. It didn't do anything the first time, and I'll be honest, I got a little nervous. And then I pushed it again, fired up. I didn't get any warning lights, nothing. It was ready to drive, and I've had it running now for most of the week with no problem. One of the things I have, though, that I used, and if you can afford this, you know, it helps. I've heard other people who might get warning lights, but they go off after you drive the car for about 5 minutes or so. But I've got one of these cables, and basically it just plugs into the OBD port of the car. And I have another car, or you can get a spare battery. But I just parked my wife's car next to it, plug this into a cigarette lighter, and this basically just maintains enough charge so you don't lose any of your settings in the car, any of the memory or any of that good stuff. And these things are Amazon. I think I bought it for 10 or 15 bucks. And like I said, I've got 4 cars I have to keep running the family. So, matter of fact, here's the little thing ordered off of Amazon, made in China, of course. That may or may not help you. I don't know. This little panel, just provides the cover on here. You can see how this goes in. It's got these little catches here and here, and then at the top you can see that. So if you go with the pry bar at the top and just do this piece, you hit in this corner, push down on those, and then pry it out a little bit away from the panel. Picture this. Right. So basically it's sitting in here like this. So start at the top. Pry bar here. Just pull that piece out, and then this lifts right up. You do have to remove the what the heck? These little pieces that hold the. This is the other piece, that connector holds the carpeting in, or that side panel. That takes a star socket. You can see it here. Basically, there's 2 bolts. When you flip this thing up, you got 2 bolts there. Just remove those, and then you can lift this thing right up. There are the screws in the front, or in the very rear, are shorter than the screws in the back for this piece. Just so you know that when you're going to reinstall it. Shorter screws are here in the rear, and the longer screws go up front. You go to reinstall, you just push that piece back in, make sure you've got this, slide under the plastic here, boom, boom. The other thing you have to do is, you remove this plastic cover. You can see what it looks like without it, after I've taken it off. To get that out, all you do is take a small screwdriver. I found the easiest way to do it anyway, and push those pins in just a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch, and then put the screwdriver, just a small flathead, underneath this thing, and just pry it out. And that's the easiest way to get those out. Be real careful when you take them out, because you save these little pins so you can reuse them. Remember I was telling you some bolts are longer than the other that goes in this. Well, that's what they look like. But here's what those little pins look like. They keep that looking, and here's the piece, the cover. It just slides right off of there. Basically, here's what it looks like. There's nothing to it. That you just put back on once you get the panel back in. But to get the panel out over this, you need to take this off because it's too big. So it kind of looks like this when it's all done. The other thing I would just tell you, one other tip, is that there is a plastic piece right here, and you need to get your pry bar, your plastic pry bar, and flip up on that a little bit, and then it'll pop out. And I'll show you what that looks like. Sorry for all the jumping around. As I said, I'm not a great videographer. I'm just trying to help out a little bit. And it looks like this. You can see the little, hopefully you can see that, the little pins on either side. So basically, that goes, crap. Excuse me. Sorry guys, bear with me. Goes in here. much you've got it. It's like that. Just locks in. But turn it out. You can see how you slide it in and then down, and then pop it up and then out. The way those little pieces work. Right? Makes sense? All right. Here's the back side of it. So you can see the. You guys are getting the benefit of seeing this, because when you're doing it, you're blind to all this stuff. You really can't see it unless you happen to disassemble it all before. Let me see if I can think of anything else, any other tips to give you before you try it. Other than that, it's winter in Cleveland and all the salt is caked all over the car, of course. I don't have anything else for you other than that. As I said, it's really not that difficult, as long as you're not in a hurry. If you don't have the patience, hand it over to the shop, but I think their charge is like $800 or something to do this job. $650, $800, it's in that neighborhood. I can't recall when I called them or how much it was exactly, but the Costco battery, under $200, and you know, it should get you going and you're off to the races. I hope this helps. Again, apologize for all the bouncing around. I'm not a great videographer. I was trying to do it all with one camera shoot, and this is a 21-minute video. I know it's long, but hopefully it all works and it helps you. Just trying to think if I have any other comments before I let you go. Anything else I learned when I was doing this job? Oh, I know what. Yeah, you got to reprogram the battery. You got to register the battery in your vehicle. That is important. So you have to have a scanner. This one I bought on Amazon. It was like $300. I know you can get scanners that will work for less. It's got to be a two-way scanner, not just a code reader, but it's got to be able to go two ways, so it's bidirectional. It can program back. This one does. It was about $250, I think it was, on Amazon. The top done, and this is called the, there you go, Audi 900 Lite. Who knows if they're still making this model when you watch this video, but any rate, use something similar to this. You know, it's got most of these two-way readers, the scanners, will be able to program the battery under it's called the BMS, or battery management system. Usually it's under, I think if you code 19, it's kind of like if you have to search and yours doesn't have a BMS, it's the number 19 for most of these scanners. That means the battery module management system. Once you go in there, you just register this new battery. That just tells it that it's not the old battery, so apparently it reduces the charge that goes in there somehow. And the important thing is that you've got a new serial number on it. It doesn't really have to be the serial number off the battery. That doesn't matter as much as just having a new serial number. But make sure you take a picture of the top of your battery before you install it, and you register it, because you will need to know the amp hours. This one, as I said, was 68, and this is a 680 cold crank amp. This new battery was a 70 amp hour and a 680 cold cranking amp. So once you put that information in and register it, again, you do that before you start it up. Register the battery. That just tells the car it needs to, it doesn't need to charge as much. I don't know exactly how that works, but it works. It was simple. You can do it. You're not going to blow up your car. It's not going to catch fire or whatever. Again, I'm just an amateur. What the hell do I know? But if you're not afraid to dive into it, it's not hard. That's it. That's all I got. Good luck.